had the most incredible students. I had an extraordinary career, and it's because of people like Chase. He came in as this wide-eyed, impressionable little 8th grader, and I have never, ever seen a student work so hard in whatever he did. It didn't matter. I could give him an assignment, and he'd say, "Can I do more? What else can I do?" I was like, really? You're like this dream student. He would oftentimes come in at lunchtime. He'd have lunch in my room with another student, Becca. They'd come in and they'd work on their projects. And I thought I had died and gone to heaven. I thought, this is 8th grade? Are you kidding? What am I doing in the senior high? So then, 8th grade ended, and then Chase became one of my drama kids. And again, I thought, I am so, so lucky. A wise man recently told me that nothing happens by chance. Things were meant to be. And so, just to fast forward, Chase went to university, and then he got a job at Hendrick Sports. And so Ted had bought me a racing package at the Charlotte Speedway where I could race the car around. I know, it was the coolest gift. And so I called, and I'm not an athlete. But anyway, so I called Chase and I said, "Do you think we could have lunch?" And he said, "Yeah, but why don't you come out and I'll show you where I work." I had no idea. It was spotlessly clean. He was so well respected by everybody there, and I was so proud to be kind of toddling along behind him because he had made it. So it is my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce Chase Eliason, my one-time student and my forever friend.
All right. I don't know how I'm going to follow that up, but all right. First of all, I just want to thank the Proctor REA3D staff for inviting me here. I don't really feel deserving of being here. I feel like I was just in high school and middle school in the 8th grade class 3 or 4 years ago. So it's such a huge honor for me to be here. Thank you guys so much for the invite. I also want to thank everybody else that came out to support this huge event. It's amazing to look out across this crowd and so many people that had such a profound impact on my life and where I am today, and I know I would not be standing here without all of you, so thank you so much. I'm going to start my little speech, I guess, here with a video of NASCAR. So now in Duluth, Minnesota, a lot of people don't know a lot about NASCAR, so this kind of gives a quick overview of what NASCAR does. I feel like it does a pretty good job.
NASCAR. The NASCAR Cup Series is the pinnacle of motorsports in America. 36 drivers competing door to door for 36 weeks in the lead up to crown a champion. But there's a lot more to learn. Let's dive in. The field of cars at a NASCAR Cup event is comprised of 36 starter teams. Those teams are made up of drivers, spotters, crew chiefs, pit crew, and the staff back at the race shops. Our drivers are athletes, competing weekly for hours on end in extreme temperatures to get their car to the finish line. Spotters are the eyes in the sky, letting drivers know what's happening with other cars around them. The crew chief is like the coach, strategizing and drawing up plays for the pit crew to execute on pit stops. The pit crew fuels the car, services the driver, and changes tires faster than you can tire shows. And lastly, the crew at the shop that builds these incredible race cars, preparing them for hundreds of miles of competition each weekend. That brings us to the car. NASCAR's next-gen race car debuted in 2022. It showcases the cutting edge of stock car racing technology. Built to resemble their street counterparts, these cars include 18-inch wheels, a sequential gearbox, and independent rear suspension. Now let's talk racetracks. NASCAR has a 36-race season. 26 of those races make up the regular season, leading into a 10-race elimination style playoff. The regular season kicks off with stock car racing's biggest event, the Daytona 500. Fans from around the globe flock to Daytona's campgrounds, hotels, and grandstands to get a glimpse of the great American race. The family-friendly experience fans get at Daytona can be felt throughout the season, as NASCAR's tailgate culture, unprecedented access to the drivers, and guaranteed good times travel weekly with the circuit. And if you can't be there in person, you can catch all the action with NASCAR's exclusive broadcast partners. The regular season then bounces all over the United States, from the West Coast in Phoenix and Las Vegas, all the way back east to historic sites like Martinsville, Bristol, and Darlington. Race number 26 is the regular season finale, the final race before NASCAR's 10-race playoff, proving to be the last chance for drivers to lock into the 16-driver playoff field. Once the field of 16 is set, drivers make their way through three-race rounds, eliminating 4 drivers at the end of each round. The final 4 drivers find themselves in a winner-take-all championship race, where the season's champion will be crowned. Looking to learn more about NASCAR drivers, teams, and tracks? Visit NASCAR.com/101 today.
All right. I'm going to start really from early life. Technology is great. Early life for me. First of all, I was born and raised, obviously, in Duluth, Minnesota. You can tell a racer, I guess, at a young age. Got my checkered flag. Come a long ways. Tim and Annie Lyson, who are right here, they were my parents growing up. We had a very middle-class family. One thing that I credit them to is we always spent time on resources, on moments. We spent a lot of time camping. They packed all 5 of us kids, or all 3 of us kids, all 5 of us in a car, and we drove to Florida every year. We really spent time together all the time. And the second thing they taught me is empathy. I think the greatest thing that I got from both my parents is that to always put others before yourselves, and I still use that to this day, so super thankful for that. Also to my sisters, I think they've kept me humble throughout the years. Back in the day when we would travel to Florida every year, we'd get hotel rooms, and my parents would stay in one queen bed, the girls would stay in the second queen bed, and Chase slept in between the 2 beds. To this day, there's no place I like sleeping better than in the middle of the floor on the ground at my house or on the woods. So they certainly gave me some humility, and they still do to this day. So super thankful for that. Growing up, I was able to work at Lakehead Clutch and Brake that my grandpa started in the 60s. And that really is probably where my foundation started as a kid. I was super blessed to have some of the 3 best mentors in my life to this date, my grandpa, my dad, and my Uncle Troy. They still own the business. My brother-in-law now is in the process of taking over the business. I started sweeping floors, and eventually I started relining brake clutches, rebuilding clutches, relining brake shoes. And that was kind of my base of hard work, and I learned hard work from there. I tell a story all the time that my grandpa, I remember going out. It's an old, really old building in the West End, the friendly West End as they call it. And one day in the middle of the summer, it's crazy that it's hot in Duluth. Usually isn't, but we were up on the roof and it was black tar roofing that we were replacing. And I remember it was me and my grandpa up there, and I was probably 7 or 8 years old. And we came down at lunchtime and we ate lunch, and I told my grandpa, I was like, man, I don't really enjoy doing that. I think I'm going to take the rest of the afternoon off and work downstairs. And he looked at me and he said, you're not always going to enjoy what you do in life, but some things you just need to do. So I walked back up the stairs with my grandpa and I finished doing the roofing that day. To this day, I use that all the time in my life. As fortunate as I am to work in this sport, there's still a lot of things that have to be done. I'll still sweep the floors, I'll still mop the floors, try to help out a younger kid that's in the shop, and that is a super huge testament to my grandpa that I got to have as my mentor growing up. The dream. So the dream started probably when I was 5 or 6 years old. I always wanted to work in NASCAR. That was my goal all through life. So I started at 5 or 6 years old. That everything I tried to do in life was trying to work my way towards NASCAR. I was told a lot that it was probably a far-fetched dream and I would never get there, but I never really listened to that. I didn't really think anything of it. These pictures here I actually had on my cell phone. I found them. They're from 2012. So if you go to Daytona International Speedway, they have these garages. In that middle picture, you can see the garages, and they have a fan zone in the middle of the garages. You can peer into these windows, and you can see all the guys working on the race cars. And I took these two pictures to the left and the right. It's Jeff Gordon and Danica Patrick. That was in 2012, January of 2012. And it was no idea what I was doing at the time, and it was 5 months later I was an intern at Hendrick Motorsports on the other side of that glass. One thing I learned from this when I was looking through it this week is thinking that the glass walls are put in life to stop the people that don't want something bad enough. They weren't going to stop me. I was going to get to that other side one way or another. My early racing career, Eliason started racing in 1961. My grandpa actually built the engines for the cars. Both my great uncles raced. Then later along, my two uncles raced, Troy and Todd. I faintly remember being over at the Proctor Speedway and watching both of them, and that just kind of lit a fire underneath me. From that moment on, I love racing, and that is what I want to make a career out of. So I pushed super hard from there to try and race. So I did that for a while. Daryl Nelson, who's a local favorite, who races at Proctor Superior, hitting, kind of all around. He came into Lakehead one day and he asked me if I want to come racing with him for a weekend. And I was 11 years old at the time. So starting at 12, he took me for an entire weekend. I stayed at his house. It was like a dream come true. I'm like, I don't know how I deserve this, but super cool. I went on to do that for almost 10 years, just helping out. I was at the shop every day. I worked, traveled all over with him. I got to go down to Florida with him, Arizona. It was kind of a dream come true as a 12-year-old. I missed a lot of school probably because of it. I remember sitting in offices and with secretaries getting yelled at, but here I am. I later went on to, that far right picture is me actually racing. When I turned 15, I started racing for 2 years at Proctor. And anybody that saw me, they quickly realized that I probably shouldn't drive and maybe I should be on the other side. So I decided shortly after that, I did that for 2 years, is driving, that I really wanted to work in the sport as an engineer. And that really started my climb, really from that point on, where I really wanted to push, be an engineer and work in NASCAR, top level of sports in America. High school. Obviously, I went to Proctor High School. 2009 grad. I feel like Proctor, when I was thinking about it this week, gave me such a well-rounded education, really. You know, being in engineering, I really like the physics and the maths and the sciences, but I had two really good mentors that I don't think are here, but Glenn Gilderman and Jeff Gunderson really helped round me and give me such an appreciation for history. And to this day, I love history. And same with LP on grammar and English. And I felt like that has really helped me get a balance in life. I look back all the time and I have so much appreciation for that. If you look on this far left, there's a card that I did in 8th grade in Glenn Gilderman's class. I still carry it in my wallet today. And we did it to what our goals were going to be in life in 8th grade. And as an 8th grader, I don't know how you could ever think that you'd ever be able to follow these, but read through them quick. I've got it up there, but it says, to be is to live with God. Kindness is the language which the blind can see, the deaf can hear. Concentrate on finding a goal, then concentrate on reaching it. The greatest use of life is to spend it for something that will outlast it. Live life with an open heart and mind. Take the deserted path in life. Love my mother, family, and father. And then live life to the fullest. Big thing, yeah, 8th grade, I still look at this weekly almost. I pull it out of my wallet when I'm having a tough week. As much as I love my job, there's still times that are stressful, long hours, and I pull this out. It really grounds me, so super thankful for that. And then LP. So I walked into LP's class in 8th grade again. That's probably what I look like. I probably didn't have to dress up like that. Super nerdy, awkward. And she's like, I got the place for you. I got the perfect part. But anyways, I was super awkward. And I asked her, I said, hey, can I work in light and sound? Because as an engineer, I kind of like that stuff. I was like, I could sit up there, I could do it. And she's like, yeah, you probably could, but let's put you in a play. And I'm like, I don't know about that. Yes, I nailed it. But really, the lesson from that is that life begins at the end of your comfort zone. That was so far out of my comfort zone at the time. And one thing about LP that I'll say is I think the greatest gift in life you can give another person is to believe in them. And from that moment, she believed in me, and since then, she's believed in me 100%. So that's really what has pushed me to the point I am right now in my career. And she's been such a huge supporter for me, and so thankful for your wisdom. After high school, I went to Michigan Technological University. So I was there 2009 to 2014. And I graduated with a mechanical engineering degree in 2014. And then my journey to NASCAR, really. So NASCAR is always where I wanted to be. And on top of that, it was Hendrick Motorsports. That was the pinnacle of NASCAR at the time, still is today. And I knew nobody there. I knew nothing. Nobody in northern Minnesota knows anything about NASCAR. Most people don't. I hardly did at the time. And I called an 800 number online, and the gift shop answered. Can you connect me with HR? And they did. Thankfully, they did. So HR answered, and I got a super nice, the nicest rejection, I guess you could get. So that was probably one of the first glass walls that I ran into at the time. I was super persistent. I probably drove them crazy. I sent them emails about every week. I called them every week. I was in college at the time, and I decided, I guess I'm not ready for this yet, or they don't think I'm qualified yet. So I went on to get an internship with General Motors. I was down in St. Louis, Missouri for 4 months, working in a manufacturing facility. And then after that, I was at Toyota down in Michigan. I did that for 4 months as well. I was working in powertrain controls. Super, super good experience. While I was working down at Toyota, I got a phone call during one of my breaks or something. And it was Hendrick Motorsports. My resume had landed back on their desk. And in the meantime, I had been messaging them and emailing them and calling them and driving them crazy. They're probably like, gosh, just hire this kid. I don't know if he's any good or not. But anyways, they set up an interview. I did the interview during my lunch while I was at Toyota in my truck. And they said, you got it. You got the job. And I remember calling my dad at the time because I'd already been out of school for 4 months. I was like, so I got good news and bad news. Like, I'm going to be out of school for a little bit longer, but I got an internship at Hendrick Motorsports. And of course, he was super supportive and super, super pushed me to always try to do better and be better. So I would intern at Hendrick Motorsports 2012 to 2013. I did that for 15 months. So I think I was out of college for a total of like 20 months. That was hard. After my internship, they asked me to stay out there and just finish schooling out there, but I told them that I couldn't give 100% to school and 100% to work. So I decided school was more important at that time. I went back to Michigan. And if they had told me that if I did it or not, I wouldn't get that opportunity again, but I did. So fortunately, I went back to school. I graduated in 2014. They called me October 2014, offered me a full-time position out at Hendrick Motorsports. I started graduated in December 5th or something. I started like 2 weeks later down there. I spent my first 7 seasons with Jimmy Johnson, which is super, super cool. Like, again, pinnacle of the sport. He had won 6 championships. We won 23 races together, I think. We tied Dale Earnhardt for wins. We tied Dale Earnhardt and Richard Petty for championships at 7 championships in 2016, which is incredible. I did that through 2019 until Jimmy retired, 2020, I guess it was. After that, I went on to be with Alex Bowman, or actually I was with Kyle Larson for a year in 2021. We won 10 races. We won the championship in 2021, which is pretty special, so that was my second championship. And then after that, I went with Alex Bowman for 2 years, and now I'm at Trackhouse Racing. So it's been quite a ride. It's been amazing. Really, my major responsibilities now on the Trackhouse side is I'm a primary race engineer, so I have 2 engineers that work under me. We work on aerodynamics, suspension, body, drivetrain, so engines, really anything engineering related kind of falls under my department, I guess you would say. Strategy-wise, driver coaching, We travel a lot. This is only my second weekend I've ever taken off in 11 years, so it's kind of crazy not being at the racetrack, but here I am. I got this one last video here quick. This is of the 7th championship when we tied Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt Sr. in 2016. It was pretty cool. You can see me at one point in the video, later in the video.
Come into the restart zone. Great restarts by both the 48 and the 22. Kyle Larson drops back to second, but he plays back on the outside. Here comes the 4. Kevin Harvick racing at 22 hard. Jimmy Johnson out front. They pass the overtime line. Larson looking at the high side. This time wide. One flag in the air. One more time around for Miami. Jimmy Johnson has never won at Homestead Miami Speedway, but he's never been in a position where he's had to wait for a championship. Down the backstretch he goes. A half a lap away from the championship. Jimmy Johnson through 3 and 4. Make room. Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt. There's another 7-time champ. Jimmy Johnson wins his 7th NASCAR championship.
So, short and sweet, but I'm going to end with this picture here was at Daytona International last Saturday, and this is on the other side, looking out at the windows. You can see the window in the back corner. 13 years ago, I stood on the other side of that wall, and I never thought I would get to this side. I just celebrated my 11th Daytona 500, and it's amazing because of all the people in here, so I'm super, super thankful for that. Again, the glass panes are installed to stop the people that don't want something bad enough. So what I can tell everybody right now and every young kid in here is that you're going to get stopped and there's going to be glass walls, but they're going to stop the people that don't want it bad enough. So you got to push yourself. Lessons that I've learned through life is to support yourself with really good people. I have a full table of them right here and everybody in this room. I'm so thankful for your positivity, your support, your kindness. And then work hard. I've always said that I'll always get outsmarted, and I always did. I did through college as well, but I promise you I'll never get outworked. And then give back. You need to help enable the dreams of others, and that's a huge thing that I try to do to this day. I have kids all the time that reach out to me and they want advice, whether it's going into NASCAR or it's going to be a manager at Target. I don't care what it is. If that's your dream, push for it. Don't let those glass walls stop you. One of my favorite quotes is from Theodore Roosevelt. He said, "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena. Those whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again. Because there's no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds. Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. So that is his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who never knew victory nor defeat." I want to end by saying to live your life with humility, empathy, and drive. I think I've always been a big believer if you live your life the right way, the dreams will come to you. Thank you guys so much.